Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Sorry for keeping everyone waiting, and a warm welcome to the session. I'm building the talent pool, Indian leaders powering the global landscape. I'm Akshay Bhatt, Science and Technology Specialist with GFI India. And over the past year, I have been deeply involved in building a robust smart protein research and innovation ecosystem with India's top researchers from top-notch research institutes introducing smart protein coursework at universities to educate and inspire students, and also engaging with entrepreneurs, investors, and students to bridge research and innovation. So we have just seen an ambitious vision for what is possible in the smart protein industry in the country and how much of economic activity and jobs it could stimulate. This sector is already scaling up overseas, and in fact, as expected, Indian talent is at the center of this growing sector. Many of the founders and research leaders in the field come from India, which of course mirrors other industries too. But we need far more talent entering the space, particularly to build it from the ground up in India. This talent extends to many areas of science, technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, we have a great panel today consisting of eminent scientists and academic and policy leaders who can offer perspectives on how we can build this talent pool to power the Indian smart protein revolution. So we have on the panel today Dr. Sridevi Singh from CFTRI. In a stellar career spanning over 3 decades, Dr. Sridevi has extensively contributed to basic and applied aspects of food science, proteins and enzymes as food ingredients, nutraceuticals from traditional food and technologies for combating malnutrition. With over 50 publications and 11 patents, she is focusing on alternative and unconventional sources of protein and micronutrients to combat malnutrition. A warm welcome, Dr. Sridevi.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Manish Diwan, who is head of SPED BIRAC. In his illustrious career spanning more than 25 years, Dr. Diwan has worked with corporate behemoths such as Daiichi Sankyo Life Sciences, Dabur, and Ranbaxy. BIRAC, Dr. Diwan is working at the research and entrepreneurship interface to empower and guide emerging biotech enterprises with cutting-edge innovations for commercialization. A warm welcome to you as well, Dr. Diwan.
Happy to be here, Akshay. Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. N. Madhusudana Rao from CCMB. Dr. Madhusudana Rao is the CEO of Atal Incubation Center, Center of Cellular and Molecular Biology at Hyderabad, that's AIC CCMB, where he has coordinated several multi-institutional projects with Purdue University, Deakin, Kumamoto, and the Roseville Park Cancer Institute, and has been actively involved in cultivated meat research and development for the past 3 years. A warm welcome, Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Akshay.
And last but not the least, we have Dr. Mukunda Goswami from the Center of the Central Institute for Fisheries Education. Dr. Goswami is a principal scientist in Fish Genetics and Biotechnology Division at SAIF India and has more than 20 years of experience in fisheries, stem cell research, and fish cell lines. He is currently involved in developing mussel cell lines for several indigenous varieties of fishes, such as Labia rohita, starting with zebrafish as a model organism. Welcome, Dr. Goswami. And also we have Dr. Smita Srivastava. Yeah, welcome, Dr. Goswami. Yeah. So moving on, we also have Dr. Smita Srivastava from IIT Madras Bioincubator. She's an associate professor at IIT Madras and also happens to be a faculty coordinator at the Bioincubator at the Research Park in IIT Madras. Dr. Smita specializes in biochemical engineering and integrates cellular and bioprocess engineering principles to maximize the yield in microbial production platforms. A warm welcome to you, Dr. Smita.
Thank you, Akshay, and good afternoon, everyone here. Sorry for the bad connection out here. I may drop out in between or come back again because of the bad weather in Chennai. Everybody must be knowing.
Okay. We perfectly understand that, Dr. Smita. Yeah. Thank you for being here in spite of all these difficulties. And we are missing one of the panelists today, Dr. Meenakshi Singh from CSIR. She happens to be a chief scientist at the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Delhi, Ministry of Science and Technology, India. And she has been absolutely instrumental in forging collaborations and partnerships with several national and international institutes, and specifically introducing the smart protein sector as well as GFI India's work to CSIR and institutes under its umbrella, such as CFTRI, CCMB, and NCL Pune. So, moving on. So, as we have talked about in earlier sessions today, we are all about building a roadmap for the growth of alternative protein ecosystem. We have talked about the need for a coordinated national plan, while we're developing a talent pool for the smart protein ecosystem, which being a key centerpiece here. The Indian biotechnology industry is valued at 64 billion. Was valued at 64 billion in 2019 and among the top 12 destinations for biotechnology in the world, and is targeted to reach 150 billion by 2024-25. The government of India's Department of Biotechnology aims to establish India as a world-class biomanufacturing hub and has created technology development and translation networks across the country through establishment of bioclusters, incubators, technology transfer centers, etc. India's biotechnology industry offers specific value to international alternative protein ecosystem by developing and leveraging cross-country relationships among universities, businesses, and startups to accelerate technology transfer in the Indian ecosystem. And we believe we can do a great deal to drive down cost of smart protein globally and build a pillar for our new economy. But this is not going to happen without concerted effort. So today, we have a very interesting panel with leaders from different aspects of the biotech ecosystem, academic incubation, startups, and industry builders. Leading into this session, Dr. Meenakshi, let's go. Sorry, just a minute. So let's start with the first round of questions about what each of you do and how you are thinking about the smart proteins. So the first question would be to Dr. Sridevi. So Dr. Sridevi, now you have been at the helm of CFTRI since probably I was a very small kid and have literally seen the transformation or growth of the institute under the umbrella of CSIR. So the first part of my question to you is what makes you and the researchers at CFTRI interested in this sector, and how do you leverage the existing talent at CFTRI to create solutions in plant-based proteins as well as fermentation segment of the smart protein sector?
Yeah, that was a lot of questions, but let me start. Okay, when you look at proteins, actually India has a very huge deficit in the diet, and nearly 200 people are going hungry. This also includes protein, energy, malnutrition. So we are constantly looking for alternate sources of proteins to feed our people, and they have to be cost effective. Of course, due to the awareness globally, because of the environmental damage that animal proteins are doing, many people are looking at plant proteins as sources, and that is very near to the mandate of the Central Food Technological Research Institute. We have been doing a lot of work on plant proteins, and one of the cost effective proteins could be the oil seed cakes. So generally the Indian oil seeds have upward of 40% oil in them, and if you are able to, the defatted cake, if it could be made edible, it would have around 50% protein. So that could be a very cost effective source of edible protein. That is one of the interests. Apart from that, also algae, seaweeds, all of these are alternate sources of proteins that we are looking at. Now, if you want to replace animal proteins, or you want people to start eating plant proteins, there are two challenges. One is that the plant proteins always are associated with anti-nutrients in them, because they are meant to protect the seed from being eaten and not destroyed, and also as a source of nutrients. So we need to address that on one level. And second is, most of the plant proteins do not have all the essential amino acids that are required for the human body. So mixing and matching of plant proteins is also a very challenging task. And the third thing would be, how do you really texturize these proteins so that you are able to mimic a well-loved dish? And here, Indian foods, if you look at it, the way of cooking and all are very different from the Western thing. So to mimic that is a challenge. And this is one of the reasons why CFTRI is looking, because scientifically it is challenging, and all scientists want challenges to work at. And if we are able to harness all these proteins, then definitely it would go a long way in feeding our people a good quality protein. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Sridevi. If you could throw light on how you could actually exploit the existing talent at CFTRI, especially in terms of students and researchers.
Okay, so we do have a huge HRD program over here, and we have an MSc Food Technology program that is catering to the food industry, and also we have around 300 PhD students. So constantly we are looking as to how we can value add to the produce, agricultural produce on the one hand, and also the byproducts of the Indian industry. So there are many dissertation programs that are running, PhD programs. All of this, the students are looking for scientific challenges, and especially because India has this huge problem of undernourishment in terms of protein undernutrition. It would make a lot of economic sense to work on such problems. And we have an excellent pilot plant facility with all the equipment that is required. So we also have an incubation center. We have some 12 incubators in our institute. So all of them are looking at this growing market of alternate proteins and smart proteins to see how they can also add to it. And especially the underutilized sources from agriculture, like maybe horse gram, maybe some kind of pulses, some of the sources from the northeast, which are not really looked at, whether they could give an advantage not only nutritionally but also in terms of the functional properties of the proteins. So many of the students are looking at this, and they are also very much sensitized to not eating animal protein. Many of the youngsters prefer to be environmentally friendly. So there is interest and it makes economic sense.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, Dr. Sridevi. So on one hand, we have this excellent talent pool who's looking forward to contributing to the smart protein, the growth of the smart protein sector, or building the smart protein ecosystem, the Gen Z, Gen Y kind of youngsters. And on the other hand, we have Dr. Diwan, who works for BIRAC, which is an industry academy interface and implements its mandate through a wide range of, let's say, impact initiatives, and also plays a pivotal role to bridge existing gaps in industry, academia, research, and innovation to create cutting-edge indigenous technologies. Obviously, it cuts through several areas of biotechnology as well as food science. So my next question is to Dr. Diwan. So Dr. Diwan, what are your perspectives on building the smart protein sector in India, and how can BIRAC help accelerate the tech building and commercialization efforts in this field?
Thank you, Akshay. This is an emerging area, Akshay, and as Dr. Sridevi emphasized, it has both socio-economic as well as environmental as well as societal need, which it can potentially address directly as well as indirectly. So this is a matter of priority given this relevance, and a concerted effort where all the stakeholder partners, ecosystem stakeholder partners, come together and make a concerted effort to achieve a higher order long-term goal. So from that perspective, it is critical that we get aligned and we make a conscious effort in this direction. Let me give you one example. In the experience of BIRAC, the high-end, so-called difficult at that time, blue sky imagination that we would 3D print organs and tissues. That was seeded, let's say, 7, 8, 10 years back. Now, such companies who got initiated with an humble idea, they now have a tangible movement in that direction, looking for product deployments. One such example is Pandorum. So they are 3D printing cornea and 3D printing liver tissue. Like this, this is cultivated meat is a futuristic, relevant mission program, which if we can seed now, we will have germination, we will have an outcome, tangible outcome in the near future. For this, I think the elements are in place. India's biotech ecosystem has a critical mass associated now, which has knowledge dissemination, knowledge generation centers like academia, research institutions. I think a couple of representation we can see from here. There is a provision that knowledge dissemination can happen towards commercialization away from the academic side, which you can see from the new conduit that has now created the startups, right? Entrepreneurs taking up that initiative to commit 100% of their talent, time, resources for a common objective. The other element where these startups and this knowledge can actually seed and germinate, we can now see the incubation centers. Again, we have Dr. Madhu, Dr. Smita, and Dr. Sridevi also has incubator support. So the knowledge gets generated, there is somebody to take that forward, and there is a seeding breeding ground, which is the incubation center. We have now education policies in place. BIRAC from DBT is a specialized or a dedicated agency who is pushing on promoting and nurturing such startups, biotech startups, to scale at national as well as global level. So there is policy framework, institutionalized mechanism, and we like us as enablers, there is funding which gets sourced in from such enabling system to nurture these ideas through entrepreneurs, startups in incubation centers and moving forward. And there comes the alignment of the investors, the industry, forward-looking industries who are committing towards R&D, and an interjection where we can actually connect India's growing ecosystem to international innovation ecosystem, so that this particular objective of developing cultivated meat is not an India-centric, let's say, challenge or a a problem statement. It Once we are able to come out with a defined product, it will be relevant for not only India but for the world at large, right? So that's the leveling out field, especially in this area. And we have the advantage, or let's say we're at the right space, and a Good Food Institute is making good effort, in fact. uh, it just because we are at the right stage now to level play with advanced players, developed nations, and advanced ecosystem. Just like we did it for COVID vaccines, we could come with first in class. Same way, I think the ecosystem is now mature enough to take up
Absolutely,
such
absolutely, Dr.
challenges
Manish.
and deliver.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, forging international collaboration is absolutely necessary, like what you said. And we also have Dr. Meenakshi Singh, who has just joined. So, Dr. Meenakshi, a warm welcome. Thanks for taking the time to join today.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Meenakshi, I'll come back right to you. But before that, just taking this question which I posed to Dr. Diwan, going a little bit deeper, let's say, to Dr. Rao as well as Dr. Smita. So how do you think the interplay between bioincubators spread across the country? I mean, of course, we have bioincubators, which you're leading at CCMB as well as IIT Madras, with proven track records in incubating and, let's say, commercializing startups, which have till date generated a lot of return of investment in multiples in both of these bioincubators. And Dr. Rao, we have already seen the sector for the past 3 years very closely. And so what are your thoughts on what elements of interplay between infrastructure creation and capacity building and, let's say, funding agency support will be required to create a thriving smart protein ecosystem in India? So Dr. Rao, if you could go first.
Yeah. Adding on to what Dr. Diwan was mentioning about the technology of cultured meat, if you break it into several of the work components, that are essential to make the whole thing happen. If one can do it, and if you do that, then it is easy to grasp the attention of the young talent more easily. Because if you put a cultured meat, if you really put it, then it becomes like a kind of humongous problem. But experts like GFI and others who have looked at it closely, when they break it down into several smaller components, then many things are tangible. In fact, I can say all of it is a low-hanging fruits. So how do we make people realize that, so far, if you say cultured meat is usually looked at as a domain of people who have some experience in life sciences. Actually, it is much more than that. In fact, you need a polymer chemist, you need a systems engineer, you are a scale-up chemical engineers and things like that. So one has to, and many people, in India, the talent pool is humongous. I don't see that there is a problem. But how do you grab the attention of this talent pool towards the cultured meat is what is more important. And one of the ways to do it, as was suggested, being an incubator. In fact, right now we have at least 2 of them who are at the periphery of something related to future of proteins kind of a thing, like trying to make milk proteins in a bacterial system and things like that. And CCMB itself has one of the earliest program on cultured meat to culture the muscle cells of sheep. So we have been there to some extent. I still, this is a kind of a very complex problem to handle by one institute, but I think we have done to some extent. But the point here is to attract more talent pool. Where is the carrot? Carrot will have to show us some carrot to it. So one of the carrots would be the funding. The funding, if you can show some, support in that thing, then more people would be exploring more, because it is not a new science in that sense. It's a new set of old well-known methods put together to do a different outcome. That's how I see cultured meat. So it's easy to attract a lot of people, break down the product, show some carrot in the sense of seed funds and things like that, and some kind of a vertical that can be created at a national level, either DBT or DST or whatever, so that there is a focused funding supported by GFI, and also few incubators who become part of this focused activity. I think it'll pick up very fast, because in my opinion, the talent pool is there. It's a matter of how you put the various pieces of puzzle together, and it will emerge very quickly. And we shouldn't be looking at cultured meat as a very complex thing. Actually, if you break it down, it is something that is very doable in a very short time. That's my feeling. And incubators would definitely play a big role if they are given, of course, infrastructure is like IITs and CFTRI and our place. They're well supported with life science startups. So it's a matter of showing some kind of a support system from the government or anybody who are interested in looking at cultured meat as an alternative for future. Then I think it will go quickly and in the right direction where everybody is looking at. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rao. Dr. Smita, any perspectives here?
Yeah. Thank you, Akshay. And just in line with what Dr. Rao was mentioning, institutes like IIT Madras, the avenues are already available where we try to facilitate the journey of students, young students and entrepreneur, starting from the ideation stage till the market stage. Now, I think where part protein sector is concerned, I think we need to begin with creating awareness among the students and the researchers, especially in these institutes, just to gain their attention and to motivate them to work in this area in terms of ideation. I think one of the ways by which one can begin is having exploratory research projects or hackathons for the students. I think where it should start is to minimize their fear of failure after creating awareness. Now, minimizing the fear of failure and some bit of hand holding with a holistic approach, I think those channels are available. we can build upon and strengthen the infrastructure as we move. But I think what is currently needed is to create awareness among the students and researchers through these channels where there is some rewards, some seed funding, so that the young researchers feel that there is not much at stake for them. So I think reducing the risk and creating these channels where one can encourage them to think, ideate in this area, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Smita. I absolutely agree with you. And I think so we can just talk to Dr. Meenakshi Singh here. So she needs to leave very quickly. So I think drawing in from this conversation, Dr. Meenakshi, CSIR has a very large network which is relevant across all areas of smart protein. Could you tell the audience a little bit about that network and how it connects to, let's say, smart protein functional areas such as plant-based foods, fermentation, and cultivated meat? I mean, CSIR has the capability of bringing all kinds of talent together: cell culture, meat science, food technology, biochemistry, chemical engineering, and a long list together, which is what we need in the sector. So, Dr. Meenakshi, if you could speak towards this.
Thank you, Mr. Akshay. Actually, I was in hurry to leave somewhere, so I stayed for some time. Thank you for the opportunity. And of course, we came in contact with the Good Food Institute, I think, since last meeting what we had with CSIR brainstorming meeting, and they have participated as an industry, partner in several areas of the agriculture, nutrition, biotech. Of course, I came to know that time that they were already in contact through Director CFTRI, Dr. Sridevi, that they were already in lot of contact with the CFTRI as well as CCMB also. So they have done, even IMTech also, they did some work with them. And that time I came to know. And following that, actually, we are actually, exchanging our notes, and we want to enter with the MOU, in a broad term MOU, so that we can do lot of activities with the Good Food Institute. So that MOU already, it was cleared, and I shared with them. They have said now they have agreed with the whatever terms and condition. So we'll be shortly entering with the MOU. And as well as, then later on, project specific agreement will be signed between the GFI as well as CSIR labs. Of course, then we will be also part what GFI is getting through different, funding agencies. Our interest is basically if we can get some projects where GFI can help CSIR in the area of course, smart proteins. And we have several, I think already it is said that we have largest, I think, R&D infrastructure, R&D institute in among, India. And a lot of areas in this smart proteins have been focused by CFTRI, IMTech, CCMB, IICT, and several other labs. So we'll be very happy to work with GFI. Of course, recently I saw the GFI name, in the Codex meeting of the Food Safety Standards Authority. So I was very happy to note that, from USA, I think the major institute is participating in Codex meeting. And I was very happy to see the activities there and their active participation. Of course, whenever I came in contact with GFI, I think they are taking very, very proactive steps, and hopefully will be able to do, something within India, as well as will be interested to do expand our network or our, capabilities, facilities, whatever we have in the collaborative project in foreign countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meenakshi, and thank you for giving a perspective on what's required and how CSIR can help through its umbrella institutes, and also highlighting our work across India. So thank you very much, and probably I'll move to our next panelist, Mukunda Goswami. So Dr. Goswami, steering our discussion to specifically cultivated seafood. So we have not yet spoken specifically about that, but before I ask my question, I would like to announce that Dr. Goswami has been awarded the GFI's annual competitive research grant program grant of nearly 68 lakhs, for which we had more than 120 applications from world-class research institutes across the world. And firstly, big congratulations, Dr. Goswami. So to everyone in the audience, this grant is extremely competitive, and this is the first time that an Indian researcher has been awarded a grant from GFI to develop cultivated seafood cell lines from indigenous fish species. Congratulations once again, Dr. Goswami. Dr. Goswami, if you're speaking, you're on mute. Hello? We are not able to listen to you, Dr. Goswami. Okay, we'll come back to Dr. Goswami in a while.
Akshay, you have gone on mute.
Yeah, apologies. So probably we'll wait for Dr. Goswami to come online. In the meanwhile, I have a few questions to everyone, to all the panelists, in fact. So we all know that funding is very critical to drive innovation, as well as funding is one of the key, let's say, pillars for building talent pool, doing research, and deep technology research especially, which needs probably funding to the tune of tens or hundreds of crores. So what steps do you all think we need to take to ensure that there is enough flow of funding from government for the sector to thrive and grow? And what relationships or approaches we could take in terms of the proximity of various institutes with the central government funding agencies or the government agencies to persuade them to allocate more funds towards smart protein R&D. So probably I'll start with Dr. Divan first.
I think to identify and recognize a national priority or a priority mission, there needs to be some basis of that. One is that impact, if it gets delivered, the ability for it to get implemented, the resources, natural resources, who will utilize such funding and how would it deliver, and is the system ready to undertake such activity. So as I mentioned before, I personally feel that the science has matured. The Indian ecosystem has also matured and actually have delivered higher order value activities, and it is poised to scale and carry this forward. So from this perspective, the answer is yes, that we must begin. And just like you mentioned, and the incubator, Dr. Madhu and other incubator representative mentioned that there is an intent. So if all stakeholders come together, and I would suggest that a GFI puts forth a request to BIRAC to consider dedicating some corpus specifically towards this kind of a challenge, we can consider an institutionalizing a risk funding at the earliest stage possible. So for example, there is an ignition grant that we give to up to 50 lakh rupees for 18 months, biotech ignition grant. At that stage, the ideas can be nurtured into POC. And once you have POC, then all existing schemes, funding schemes of BIRAC opened up to the entrepreneur startups or the SME, and they can leverage that. So the earliest stage where there is the high risk, you would not find private investments moving in. So public or government or state, center or state involvement is critical there. So we can certainly consider that option. Once the startups and the innovators are able to show the proof of concept, then it is easier to mobilize private investments, where in the biotech sector we have a large network of angels, VCs and HNIs, even philanthropic organization, both from India and from outside, and that can come together strategically to undertake such activity. I'll give you an example, Akshay, at this stage, taking everybody a little back when we were actually culling about 20-25,000 animals to source in, let's say, 10,000 pounds of pancreas to isolate 1 pound of insulin, right? Those were days in 1990s. Now we have moved that whole cycle. We can now synthesize insulin at will, at scale. And insulin, now we are actually talking about oral insulin, right? Or formulation which is slow acting, long acting, etc. Vitamins, sourcing it from animals and plants. Now we are actually synthesizing it. And the cost of such proteins have dramatically, exponentially reduced. So there is precedence, there is requirement, and as we move towards achieving this particular objective, and if we can do it in a stepwise manner, maybe single protein at one time, and then bringing together other elements and higher order challenge of texture, flavor, etc. But at least we move towards synthetic or fermented or precision fermentation for food proteins, alternate protein source. So that is the way we can move in, and there would be immediate deployment too. And that would also prepare the entire ecosystem for the eventual objective of looking at cultivated or cultured meat, whatever name you like to call it.
Thank you, Dr. Diwan. So quickly moving on to other panelists, Dr. Sridevi, any thoughts here? Especially in terms of talent pool building, in terms of having more researchers work in this space, how could we work together to move this sector forward?
Yeah, like Dr. Meenakshi was mentioning, CSIR is having a conglomerate of almost 37 laboratories, each one specializing in one sector or the other. And we are around 13 labs which are under Agri-Nutri Biotech. So you have IMTech where microbiologists are there, and then you have CCMB where cellular, then you have food technology and so on and so forth. And India being such a large country with various agroclimatic regions, you are having a huge number of plants available which are very region specific. So definitely it makes sense to collaborate, because first of all, we have to actually zero in on which should be the protein sources. Whenever we talk about smart protein for commercialization, it has to be on a scalable point, and you cannot be just concentrating on very small amounts of raw materials that are actually isolated. So we would have to collaborate to understand which is that crop and which is that grain that we can use. I'm talking about plant proteins, of course. And then how can you change that using biotechnology to increase your yields? Many times we find that the yields are not greater than 20%. So the cost is automatically going to go up 5 times, not considering the electricity and other labor and so on. So we need to look at all these aspects, and that is where collaboration comes in. We also have a lot of engineering laboratories, for example, not only the IITs, even CSIR is having. So they can then put in, so we can fast track all the projects if all these specialists are able to come in. And definitely funding also will not be a problem then, because the government would believe that the deliverables are possible. If I have to keep reinventing the wheel and trying to understand how to go about it, then it would go on forever.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sridevi. Quickly, Dr. Smita, any thoughts here? Because I think I can take the liberty of saying that we will be entering a long-term proposal for partnership with IIT Madras Bioincubator very soon in terms of infrastructure funding. So specifically linking this to talent pool building, what could be the next steps broadly we could take as an ecosystem, and specifically probably you can talk towards IIT Madras Bioincubator as well.
Sure. So Akshay, just talking about this long-term plan, which we have been discussing in the last few months with GFI. See, it has to take, as Dr. Diwan was also mentioning, I think we need to take step-by-step approach. So I think one of the step approach is to begin with is to create awareness, to build up the talent pool, and not even among the senior researchers, but also the undergrads and the graduates, to create a pipeline and develop. And this can be created by starting with some coursework development, some summer workshop development, just to let them know what it is all about and what is the scope, even in terms of commercialization and also in socioeconomic development. So what impact can this have? So I think it has to begin starting with the coursework development, some joint programs to create awareness, hackathons for encouraging students and research to ideate in this. Then at the same time, identifying the right problem statements, which can really be challenging and very encouraging and motivating for the students of these premier institutes to take the risk and jump in. So I think a very holistic approach, I'll repeat, has to be needed. Now, as we go along, then infrastructure development is the need. So now, like in IIT Madras Bio Incubator, before you come to an incubation stage, a startup is built. I think a pre-incubation stage is very crucial, where an individual starts with ideation. Now, in this idea stage itself, there can be multiple rounds of iterations which might be needed. So for that, you need hand-holding. You need a set of mentors, the right researchers, experienced people to help them, where I think organizations like GFI as well as experienced researchers can come together and create this effort. I think so that's a holistic approach which is needed way forward.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. I think that was very informative. And also, Dr. Rao, if you want to add something in this specific topic, then probably I'll move into coursework and ask all of panelists about what's their opinion on introducing coursework in this specific sector.
Yeah, I think many points have been covered by the previous panelists. And for me, it is essentially the awareness issue. Because if you look at any standard coursework in master's level in biotechnology, all the things that are part of cultured meat or fermentation or plant food, plant-based meat kind of things are all kind of there. I mean, like, people are already aware of the basics in those areas. It's a matter of, but they don't see this particular, whatever experience that they had in the classrooms is relevant in a context that is something not very familiar. So bringing the awareness and then, just conduct a lot of student-focused seminars and awareness programs would drive the people. But at the same time, when you show them that there is a lot of, there is a promise in that particular technology, but where would they go? Today, we don't have any companies that do this, like, monoclonal antibodies. There are plenty of companies on monoclonals, but when they want to get in, what is their opportunity? Can they be, all of them may not want to be the entrepreneurs. They may want to become, employees in some place. So there is no industry as such on a cultured meat area. So that's going to be a little longer wait period for that. But meanwhile, as I said, because many of these things are low-hanging fruits, it's important for create a fund, small funds, maybe few crores, so that 20 people, 30 people can get into in a small way and then see some light of the day. And that's how it is going to grow, because no big company, single company is going to do all the life cycle issues of cultured meat. So they may source from individual companies. That's where I think it's a great technology for small guys to get in. If I come up with a small molecule that increases the division time from 30 to 70, I'm home. I come up with a very interesting soya protein scaffold that supports 2 different cell types, I'm home. These are all broken down problems that can be told to people. This is where you can really contribute. I think it'll work. It's a matter of more canvassing and then giving more optics to cultured meat. And GFI is doing a great job in that, I guess. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Rao. And also, I think it's good to know that you gave this example of the scaffold which you're working on. It works on the interface of, let's say, cultivated meat as well as plant-based, and obviously there are a lot of implications of fermentation as well in how these three can cross-function. These three specific areas or pillars can cross-function with each other. So, Dr. Goswami, can you hear me? Since the last time I probably couldn't hear my question.
Yeah, sorry. I'm hearing.
If you could speak a little loud, Dr. Goswami, because we are not able to hear you.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you're slightly audible, but probably I'll go ahead.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are. Thank you very much.
Fine. Thank you.
Just wanted to understand, what made you enter into cultivated seafood R&D per se, and what steps do you think are necessary to create a pool of scientists and researchers, let's say specifically focusing on cultivated seafood and this specific segment in the smart protein sector? So if you could just speak towards that, it'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Yeah, in fact, it's very interesting because not much has been discussed about aquaculture, fish, and about seafood. So there are 2 points how I'm coming into this area of cultivated meat. The first, it was something I approached Professor Mark Post. You know that he is a pioneering scientist for developing cultivated meat. And then he suggested me to be in touch with GFI. Then after that, I have been in touch with GFI, and then so I'm slowly inclined towards this very fascinating science, you say. And then technically speaking, aquaculture, it's maybe more than 17% animal protein comes from fish. And then whatever fish we capture from open resource, that is declining. So then aquaculture is the alternative to produce fish. So again, aquaculture has many challenges. So to avoid those challenges, so that we can produce fish protein in a sustainable way, that cellular aquaculture is going to play important role. But initially, I have been in this area development and characterization of fish cell line. So I have developed and characterized more than 20 fish cell lines, including an establishment of a national laboratory where more than 50 cell lines have been maintained. But hardly some muscle cell lines, because the importance of muscle cell line is coming because of this cultivated meat. And then in case of fish, we have many advantages over other mammalian cell culture or avian other cell culture system. So that's why it's a very much you can say take up this cellular, then maybe in the form of cellular aquaculture. So you'll be happy to know in maybe USDA, where GFI is also maybe a partner. So it's giving like National Institute of Cellular Agriculture. So maybe in India also, we need to think in that way that cellular aquaculture should be like an industry or maybe a like sector. So many opportunities will be there, because only that muscle cell line will not do. We need to understand many things. And in that case, we need some kind of collaboration, some kind of interdisciplinary research, like in Mumbai. So I'm in Mumbai, so maybe IIT Bombay or maybe ICT is nearby. So some kind of only just developing cell line, and then that will not fulfill the purpose. So we need to go deeper and deeper. How we can get those knowledge from this muscle cell culture, and then finally we reach to up to that final product. Then many challenges will be there, but with involvement, and I've been hearing with those panelists, they are talking about how to bring young talents. Already, maybe you also delivered one lecture. Then students also now they are interested about this cellular aquaculture and cultivated fish meat, cultivated seafood. So more and more that type of course, and more type of seminar, webinar, and then some kind of grant, even maybe in India also. So this will be very much possible with this involvement of, and it's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Goswami, for highlighting about cultivated seafood and its applications, and also highlighting the coursework. Obviously, it was a miniature kind of a, let's say, a lecture which I delivered at SAIF a couple of months ago, but it was directed specifically to students to understand about cultivated meats and also broadly fermentation as well as plant-based. I mean, coming again to, like I said before, coursework. So this question is probably for all our panelists. And Dr. Diwan, if you want, you can also jump in. We at GFI India have created and delivered coursework in several universities across the world, such as NTU in Singapore, Tel Aviv, and Ben Gurion in Israel. All of these universities, we have delivered lectures, and we have started something also called as Alt Protein student chapters at Wageningen University in Netherlands, University of Berkeley in the US. So we're also working with several institutes closely, SAIF, IIT Madras, Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology, ICT Mumbai, where we will be introducing a diploma course early next year. And so obviously, even with CCMB, we plan to, or we aim to introduce coursework. So I just wanted to ask or draw opinions as to how we can make this a country-wide effort. In other words, we have like online courses, massive online courses, MOOC courses, which exist in India as well. And what steps do you all think we should take for a country-wide mass adoption of coursework? And we think that this is really going to prove as a game changer, but obviously we want to understand what are your perspectives on this. So we could start with Dr. Sridevi.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we do run a lot of short-term courses where people from the industry or students or entrepreneurs can come for a period of 5 days to 15 days, and they can undergo training with hands-on experience. So if you could collaborate with us, that would be a great thing, because we do have pilot plans. So hands-on experience is okay, but the course material and the design definitely would help. And since this is a growing market, I think it is the largest amongst the emerging trends in food technology, the protein, alternate proteins. So definitely any student would be very much excited to be part of that and learn it, so that they would have better prospects of either starting their own industry or getting a job. So that could be one way of looking at it. I think if GFI could also help us in designing the program, and we could introduce it as a course either in the regular MSc Food Tech, or to run it as a short-term program for people who are extremely interested in this field.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sridevi. Absolutely. We have been working together for such a long time, and probably were the first institute we approached in terms of a collaboration. So we look forward to that. Dr. Smita, any thoughts here?
Yeah, actually, the same thing as Dr. Sridevi was mentioning. I think we can begin with summer courses. At IIT Madras, we have Center for Continuing Education, which facilitates these short-term courses. These are 2 to 3 weeks long training programs. So I think as awareness is the key here among the young researchers and students, I think we can begin jointly with GFI certain short-term programs. I had also mentioned in the chat that it's more like an elective to our students. See, the basics and the fundamentals are the same. Bioreactor design and analysis is the fundamental course. But now designing bioreactors for tissue cultures, for organ cultures is a specialized domain. I think, again, for fermentation of alternative meats using platforms like microbial platforms for animal proteins, like someone was talking about designing microbial systems for collagen, let's say. So all this will be needing as an elective or a specialization, building upon the fundamentals of bioreactor designing. Now those fundamentals are already in place in the curriculum. What we need to create is what can be the various applications. Now smart protein sector is one of the key applications of these fundamentals. So now I think in terms of elective courses, which can be facilitated through guest lectures, through webinars, which we can jointly hold with GFI, or summer training programs, which can gradually build up interest of the students and researchers and also faculty in this area. Because team building going down the line will be very important for bigger goals accomplishment. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. Dr. Rao, any thoughts here? By the way, I absolutely agree, Dr. Smita, with your
yeah. I think the necessary points have been covered, but yeah, besides the awareness, conducting basically what is, we'll have to a very defined outcome related project should be given more and more, because today I'm sure BIRAC has supported few of them, but not as a mission mode or something like that, but they have done in different verticals to whether scaffolds or some kind of other kind of materials or serum substitutes and things like that they have done. That is one part, but these are all where they a bit of optimization of the things come into play. But if you want more people to get into, you will have to be, the fresh crowd will not be able to go into an entrepreneurial mode always. They need to spend some time. So there should be some kind of a funding that need to be there, some kind of a mission mode with some money in it, so that more people can work. It should be less, in my opinion, the exploratory part of it is very small in this. It's only getting the act together is what is more important. So the project should be given in a much more, not in a 5-year projects, but they should be very focused 18-month projects or 1-year projects where the outcomes are very focused and things like that, because that's what is important here. How do you fit in a known thing in a particular context and make it work so that you solve that problem? So besides training and bringing awareness, you will have to show some kind of opportunities for them to be engaged with this. That is something that I think the major ministries should look at if they feel that this is an important area where India should have a stake. There should be a couple of mission mode projects in this for a period of few years, and then support them so that more people will come, and that also keep it a kind of industry related ones also, so that industry will be in. Today there is not really other than startup, there is no big industry in India in this area. So we'll have to I don't know whether Technology Development Board or BIRAC later schemes will look at some of these proposals yet, or whether any proposals have come in the first place. So we should look at all these things to bring in more activity per se. Right now the activity is subterranean, below the surface, so we'll have to bring it up and then make it good. That's what I feel.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rao. I think we are at time, so
my take on this would be that if we are institutionalizing, let's say 5-10 awards specifically in this direction, the awardees get extensive training, orientation, and that would be far more concentrated as well as effective. That would inspire many other aspirants to follow that lead, because that will become the role model. It will also inspire in biopharma industry to step into this new domain, adopt some R&D leads from such pool. And I think Dr. Madhu, all the BIRAC schemes are open to compete at any of these. So these are not top driven. So some of them have actually been facilitated and awarded. I remember one person got supported under BIG recently as well, under for cultivation of meat. So I think that could be one way to channelize these resources of educating and bringing the specialized training there.
Thank you, Dr. Diwan. Thank you for jumping in and giving that perspective. So I think we are at time, and thank you all panelists, Dr. Smita, Dr. Goswami, Dr. Manish, Dr. Rao, as well as Dr. Sridevi for participating in the session. And the audiences can stay tuned for the next session, which talks about how research in academia can be translated into something commercial, which can be taken from bench to billions. Thank you very much, and stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.